Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control.
We think we have it very well under control. We pretty much shut it down. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle, it will disappear. We can hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000. It's a horrible number. We all together have done a very good job.
As the nation surpassed 4 million COVID cases and over 145,000 deaths this week.
It's something that we have tremendous control of. I think we're going to win faster than people think, I hope. You're going to lose a number of people to the flu, but you're going to lose more people by putting a country into a massive recession or depression. The virus is going to disappear. I feel about vaccines like I feel about tests. This is going to go away without a vaccine.
The coronavirus itself, SARS-CoV-2, is here to stay.
As the U.S. surpasses a staggering 400,000 deaths, the incoming CDC director says another 100,000 could die in the next month.
It is what it is. It's going to fade away. We're in very good shape.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your response to this crisis?
I'd rate it a 10. I think we've done a great job.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Stop with the questions! Celebrate!
The nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Monday, start of a new week, new disasters, as always, more stories. So hope everybody had a good weekend. I did, of course, and welcome to the show. We're gonna have a fun one. So why don't we dive into it here? First, we got Black Lives Matter versus Ted Nugent. Oh, that's fun. We got a Texas restaurant kicking out people for wearing masks, not avoiding but wearing the mask. I've got that story. We'll dive into that. We got the Pro-Rioter MAGA rally that happened over the weekend. I'm going to show you some video from that. We got Breitbart. We got a writer from Breitbart blaming the left for unvaxxed Republicans. This is probably my favorite story of the day. I cannot wait to go through that. And he's going to make some insane arguments. But wait, there's a twisty twist. You might agree with him. What? What? Oh, no. Wait. How are you going to find out? You find out by watching. Stay tuned. Share with your friends. Share with your family. Share with anybody who will listen. Very important stuff that we're going over here. And of course, we're going to talk about Kirsten Sinema. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene's insane ad. That's always fun. Let's dive in. We got so much stuff. No, not bad. Good. Very good. And you'll see. You'll see why. Wait for the story. Context. We got context. Let's do it. Rocker Ted Nugent was publicly called out by a Michigan man after he insulted Black Lives Matter. And specifically people who believe in Black Lives Matter. So now there's video, but I can't show it to you because I'm worried about copyright concerns, of course, because it's from a local news station, WMMT. But they reported that the confrontation came during a Republican-backed Constitution Day event in Centerville. Here's what he said to the crowd. Aren't there any BLM punks who want to come up and harass me? Yes. Well, yes, of course. Within moments, Jaylen Brown approached the stage. Jaylen Brown is black. And here's what he said. He asked him, what's wrong with Black Lives Matter? Ted Nugent's response is, Black Lives Matter doesn't give a shit about black lives. They're standing by while blacks are slaughtering each other. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. At that point, Brown literally took the microphone and said, Black Lives Matter too, Black Lives Matter too. So he tried to start a chant. Obviously, when you try to start that chant, Black Lives Matter too, notice, right? Because remember, the central theme of All Lives Matter is that, well, what about the rest of us? I mean, you're making it sound like only Black Lives Matter. No, he's added Black Lives Matter too, like in addition to other lives. No, he did not win over the crowd at all. And so not only that, but according to WMMT, he said, he explained to the crowd that black people had been mistreated throughout history. Look, you look in an actual history book, not the ones that are literally coming out of Texas or on PragerU or in Mike Huckabee's whatever propaganda nonsense. No, you look at the actual history, you look at before civil rights, and of course you look at the slave trade, realize that, yeah, we've treated black people pretty bad, country, historically. And so, yes, that's true. And he added, we're not here by choice. Someone in the crowd, of course, replied, we didn't bring you. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Sure, you didn't specifically bring them over. However, there is that lasting legacy of the transatlantic slave trade that kind of had an effect on the black community in this country for hundreds of years. So, you know. Look, after all of that, the crowd decided they were going to drown him out by chanting, wait for it, USA, 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 and All Lives Matter. Of course. So now, if you wondered why All Lives Matter is bullshit, there's the absolute proof. Every time All Lives Matter is used, it's used only to shut down black people. When they actually say, actually, no, our lives are being devalued compared to everyone else's. So in reality, it doesn't seem like all lives matter because all lives won't matter until our lives matter. Makes sense, right? And here's the thing. Where is all lives matter when a white person gets killed by police? Does that ever happen? No, all lives matter, very, very silent. Where in many different occasions, Black Lives Matter, when white people are shot and killed by police officers, Black Lives Matter is there saying, his life mattered too. His life mattered. You know why? It's because it's not, All Lives Matter is basically a foil to Black Lives Matter. And every time it's used, that is used to shut it down. That's it. And let me give you an example, by the way, of BLM actually supporting white people who were killed by the cops. The officer who murdered Daniel Shaver. So now that's Philip Brailsford, right? And remember, that entire encounter had to do with a deadly game of Simon Says between Shaver and Brailsford. Shaver, of course, unfortunately lost that game to an officer who had the words, "You're fucked," engraved into the barrel of his gun. So understand that that's really that situation where, oh, if you don't follow what the officer says 100%, and by the way, he tried, and the video is absolutely heartbreaking. You've probably already seen it before. It's been out for quite some time. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. And so there it is. And there are other situations, there are other examples as well of people in the Black Lives Matter movement coming in and saying, actually, no, this white person killed by police, that person's life mattered too. And guess what? You know, even though black people are killed more often as a share of their of the population, I mean, you know, like we're defending all of the victims of police abuse. And so, by the way, that Daniel Shaver still, I mean, he got acquitted by a jury. It's disastrous. But anyway, so don't tell me that Black Lives Matter is the terrorist organization. No. Nobody terrorizes communities of color more than police, unfortunately. And the irony, of course, is that, look, despite that, Black communities do want police. What they want is they want better policing. Now, of course, I would go further. I believe that we should defund the police. We should take the money that we use for the drug enforcement and all that stuff and all the heavy weaponry and reinvest it into those communities, and really kind of build up these communities instead of keeping them down with police. But again, mine is not the popular position because there's a massive misunderstanding of what defund the police actually means. But anyway, the other point on terrorism is that Ted Nugent is the last person who should be shouting terrorist at people. Okay? For one, he previously told politicians that he doesn't like to go suck on his machine gun. I know, of course, it's just a rhetoric. He's just messing around. As the Daily Beast chronicled, Nugent discussed shooting Harry Reid during the NRA's annual meeting in 2015. In January 2016, he called for both Obama and Clinton to be tried for treason and hung. Nugent also once called for Hillary Clinton to ride one of these guns into the sunset. So just to show you his history of violent rhetoric, on and on. And of course, he says N-word, racist things all the time. But Ted Nugent, he has sworn off violence. Yes, he has. Oh, actually, in 2017, let me give you this interview. He told WABC radio hosts Curtis Silva and Ebony Williams, quote, "I will avoid anything that could be interpreted as condoning or referencing violence. I condemn violence. I'm 100% against any harm to any human beings, particularly my brothers here in America." So, of course, that was after he got a few visits by the Secret Service. Ironic, right? But here's the thing. What do you think calling Black Lives Matter terrorists actually does? Again, the BLM protests after George Floyd, specifically, 93% were peaceful. 93. Overwhelmingly peaceful. And of the times where there was not peace, it was led on, instigated by police and right-wing provocateurs. So come on. But what this does is that it condones violence against Black people and defends it, both by police and others. And that's what's important here. And look, it's insane to call this group terrorists when all they want to do is rein in the bad police. Shouldn't that be a goal for all of us, to rein in bad police? Well, when they look at it, though, they look at police killing unarmed Black people as, well, no, that's good policing. That's exactly what we want. He had it coming. He must have done something. And so, again, their argument, BLM's argument, is, again, that cops have too much latitude to be able to kill people. That's why we need to strip out qualified immunity. If you actually hold cops accountable for killing people, the result is they're going to kill less people. At which point, maybe we can get them and reorganize them and restructure them somehow so that they might actually be able to protect and serve like everyone thinks they're supposed to. Brown later told WMMT that he was offended when Nugent called Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization. He said, quote, "I love the Constitution. I love the rights that it should stand for. There are people who are taking those and misconstruing them and taking them in a different direction than what it should be." I love how he says should, because right now, that's not what's happening. Not everyone is getting the same equal protection under our laws. For example, you look at how many Black people are killed by police or incarcerated relative to the populations, and you'll notice that it's pretty high. I mean, the often cited thing is 1350, right? But the thing is that conservatives who argue 1350 are saying that they're inherently more criminal as a result of what they go into genetics, they go into cranial size and all this weird stuff, right? Because they don't want to admit that it's socioeconomics. That it's socioeconomics as well as historically racist institutions and racism, inherent biases among white people. Now, the thing is, and the reason that they don't want to admit that stuff, other than, of course, to hold on to their petty hatreds, is, well, that it's much easier to blame inherent violent tendencies or whatever than to actually go and fix things. Because we can fix those things. We can pass laws, different laws. We can tear down the old style of policing and build it to something better. But of course, the problem with that is that it's hard. Oh, it's so difficult. While, of course, lying and dehumanizing an entire group of people and using it for political fodder, by the way, while treating them as simply a monolith, all the same, is much, much easier. And of course, unfortunately, with the Republican Party, you can see exactly the direction that they have chosen to go in. And they're not going to change anytime soon. This Southern strategy worked for how long? Yeah. And it continues as the, as the voting population among Republicans continues to shrink, i.e. they age out, die off, etc. You see the direction that they're going by doubling down on hatred and racism. So there you go. Sad. Moving on. They don't want to admit it because that's admitting that they're divinely and innately superior to black people and undercuts their WS belief structure. Yeah, that's another good point, Donald. I appreciate that. Hey, I like reading comments throughout the show. So send me comments, super chats as well. I do love reading those, and I love when you all get in with your commentary as well. All right, moving on. Next story. Texas restaurant recently removed a family for violating its no mask policy. So now this is the Hang Time restaurant in Rowlett, Texas. And of course, they had a requirement for no masks. So a no mask requirement. And so they had asked a family to remove their mask when they went into the restaurant. So now the couple have a 4-month-old infant that is immunocompromised. And so they said, well, no, we don't want to remove our masks. We should have the choice. I thought this was America, where we can make the choice. This is Texas, of whether or not we want to wear masks in the restaurant. And we do, even though we're vaccinated, we want to make sure to protect our immunocompromised infant. So now, Natalie Wester had talked to KTVT about the incident when she was dining out with her husband, and she said that she chose to wear masks even though they're vaccinated to protect the health of their son. So now, here's her quote. Our waitress came over, sat down next to me, and said, our manager told me to come over because I am nicer than he is. But this is political, and I need you to take your masks off. So, this is political. So take off your mask. Who made it political? Oh, right, they did. Not the couple, but the owner, but conservatives. The anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers, they are the ones who made this political. And so for political reasons, they asked this family if they wanted to eat in this establishment to remove their mask and potentially give COVID to their 4-month-old immunocompromised son. Because again, you can actually transmit the virus even though you've been vaccinated. So now the thing is, you get a room full of vaccinated people, you can still give COVID-19 to someone else in the room who is vaccinated. Now the result of that, of course, is that the person who gets it may not experience any symptoms or may experience very mild symptoms, which will keep them out of the hospital, okay? Now, you get that same room full of a mixture of vaccinated and unvaccinated people. Well, again, a person with COVID-19 who's been vaccinated and is asymptomatic, and therefore, of course, if you're asymptomatic, why would you get tested? So you go in there and you spread it to somebody who is unvaccinated, who then ends up in the hospital. That's a situation that happens, okay? So it's generally better for everyone in the room to be vaccinated. And there's even less chance of spreading it when everyone wears masks and is vaccinated. So understand how that works, right? So now, again, them being vaccinated and their child being only 4 months old cannot be vaccinated, they decided to be on the safe side and wear their masks, which is fine. That is, again, supposed to be their choice in Texas. But no. We're not going to let you have a choice in Texas. So now here's the thing. Right-wingers, they're cheering at this story. Kick out the unmasked. Why? Because they think it's some sort of gigantic own. Because they think, and this really goes to the conservative victim mentality here, where they think, well, people kick us out of restaurants for not wearing our masks, then it must be 100% even if we kick them out for wearing masks. See, totally even, 100%. Woo! For one, again, it's not the same thing. As I mentioned before, masks are about public safety. They're actually about protecting others as well. So places with mask mandates actually are trying to protect their patrons and their staff, while the places that have no mask mandates or no mask policies like this, and I'm saying specifically, you can't wear a mask in this establishment because there are places that have chosen not to make it mandatory according to the laws of the different states that you're in or different area. And of course, every area has different infection rates and different vaccination rates. So, for example, places with high vaccination rates, and I'll get into that, are actually doing well and don't have to have mandates for masks anymore. And as you can see, places with low vaccination rates and no mask requirements, you see COVID-19 hitting, the Delta variant hitting so much harder in those areas. And so understand that there is a way that, the way that you can do this, that there is a way that this can be done to maximize safety and, of course, freedom, right? And it just depends on where you live and what your infection rates are and how many people are actually vaccinated. And so all of that stuff matters. That said, the no mask policies are just simply conservative virtue signaling. That's it. Conservative virtue signaling. And by the way, I do have to also mention, there are different types of masks that are effective as well at different effectiveness. The N95s are, of course, the best mask in order to get to protect you and others against COVID-19. So I would, if you're especially dealing with somebody who's immunocompromised, you might want to invest in one of those. And so, of course, the type of mask that you wear matters, and of course, the people that you sort with or be with, you spend time with or around, etc. All that stuff matters. So now, anyway, Tom, the owner of Hang Time Restaurant, here's what he said when he was interviewed. He quote, "I have spent my money in my business, my blood, sweat, and tears in this business, and I don't want masks in here. So when they put their masks on the other night, they were reminded that at the front to take it off. They didn't want to, and so we asked them to leave." All right, so I spent my money on this business so I can make more money. Yeah, that's generally how it works. That's how business works. Okay. All right. So now the reason I point that out is because there's a certain level of, I don't know, how do I put it? Like he puts that out there as a point, like, yeah, it's kind of like an own. And I can't think of the right word for this, but it's like, well, obviously I spent more money, and so I spent my money on this business, and so that gives me a certain sort of privilege. Does it, though? I mean, again, the entire point of your business is to make money, but you're kicking out paying customers because they do want to wear a mask in a place where you're allowed to either mask or not mask. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me, that argument. Again, and the reason that it doesn't make sense is that you were still required to do things for safety. For example, making employees wash their hands before doing meal prep. Entitlement, thank you. That's the word I was thinking of. Yeah. So now, are you entitled now to not have your employees wash their hands? Because you because you put your money into this restaurant? Is that it? I mean, how about, the entitlement to not have to keep your kitchen clean or give your staff sick time, which of course we don't actually have too much of in this country. Unfortunately, people should absolutely get paid sick leave, especially when you talk about the restaurant industry during a pandemic. Why is that not normal? Why is that not normalized? Why shouldn't everyone have, especially in that industry, have paid sick leave? Like you're literally making your employees come in sick because they can't afford to take a day off. They're going to get everybody else sick. They're going to get their coworkers sick. They're going to get the customers sick. Insane. Stupid. Now, again, Texas doesn't do a whole lot of that because it's Texas. Their government tends to not believe in regulations. But in Texas, there is a choice to wear masks. There's no mask mandate. Again, I thought it was my body, my choice. Conservatives, what are you doing? Total hypocrisy. And yes, it is his restaurant. And yes, technically, he can do what he wants. He can kick people out. Of course. But choices do have consequences. And he's already seeing some of those. So far, his Yelp page is being bombarded with some hilarious negative reviews. Look, it's mostly from people, to be fair, out of state, that don't actually live there, that probably saw this on the news and decided to drop by and leave a fun comment. I've got a couple of those, a couple of serious ones too. One person from Dallas says, extremely ridiculous and childish managers and staff. You can't even wear a mask when walking in. I don't care if they want to wear I don't care if they don't want to wear a mask. They obviously don't care of the guest's health. Glad we didn't spend our money here. One of the staff members allegedly coughed towards our direction, so for all we know, they are contaminating the food. Again, these are not verified, so we don't actually know if any of these people went to these restaurants, but nonetheless, they are leaving these. You're leaving these reviews. Another person says, was asked to leave because I didn't feel comfortable taking my mask off. I was never able to try the food or drinks. I could understand not requiring masks, given there are no mandates and many people are vaccinated. But with the variants out there, I didn't feel comfortable entering an establishment without a mask, and I felt my personal choice to do so was infringed upon. I do not intend to ever give this place another chance, and I cannot recommend it to anyone else. And again, there's a bunch of hilarious ones. I've tried to pick up the more serious ones that may or may not, that may be true. Okay, because again, you never know with Yelp comments. Still, another person says, in addition to disgusting food and bad staff, they do not take the health of their customers seriously. These are all people from Texas. If they don't respect the customer's health, who knows how careless and dangerous they are with food preparation and handling, will never be back. So again, grain of salt. But one thing is true, that if you ban masks for political reasons, you are literally putting people in danger. And I wouldn't care if the chuds get together and they swap COVID variants all day if it didn't affect other people who will then come into contact with those people. I've pretty much run out of empathy for them. I started up this pandemic saying, please, I don't care who you are, this virus is not political. Go and get your vaccine, protect yourself. You know, I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was masks, lockdown, social distancing, etc. The vaccine came out. Well, we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, great. Let's get all vaccinated. Let's get this done with. And then, after months of trying to convince people, I'm done. I'm not going to convince anybody. Anybody who's anti-vax still is not going to be pro-vax. It's just, it's at this point, it's not going to happen. And so, again, if you're vaccinated, you have a good chance of not catching COVID, the best chance of not going to the hospital with a serious case. But again, Texas is not doing so well because they have a large unvaccinated population. And that affects the immunocompromised, the disabled, children, all those people to consider. Now, one more thing. There is one spot in Texas that's actually doing pretty well compared to the rest of the state. And that happens to be El Paso. You know what their secret is? They have one of the highest vaccination rates in the state. Gee, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Now, other metro areas like Austin reported high numbers of COVID-19 patients in their area hospitals last month, while statewide hospitalizations came close to eclipsing the January peak of 14,218. El Paso area hospitals, which serve nearly 1 million West Texas residents, haven't even come close to the previous highs. On Thursday, the number of people hospitalized for COVID-19 in El Paso was a total of 127. In fact, the city's daily hospitalization numbers haven't broken 200 since March. Again, it's because they have vaccination. That's it. Wanda Helgetson, director of Border RAC, the state's regional advisory council for local hospitals, said that credit could be attributed to the area's high vaccination rate, widespread compliance with masking and social distancing, and a strong partnership among local community and healthcare leaders. Funny, it's like the opposite of what conservatives are doing actually works. Weird. But remember, for conservatives, for the hardcore anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers, this is not about controlling the virus. Never been about it. This is about politics. This is about owning the libs. And so, of course, you try so hard to own the libs, you're more likely to own yourself. Weird how that works. All right. Let's move on here. Oh, let's go to this one. Speaking of insanity, conservative writer over at Breitbart has noticed that unvaccinated people seem to be dying at a higher rate of COVID than those who have received the vaccine. Now, this is stuff that we all know, that we've all seen. We've all seen the numbers come out, and we generally know who to blame. Unvaccinated people. However, this conservative writer says, no, it's not the unvaxxed, it's the left. Oh no. So now let me read you parts of this incredibly bizarre op-ed from Breitbart news writer John Nolte. So now he argued on Monday that the left is using reverse psychology to trick Republicans into getting COVID and dying. Of all the insane conspiracies to come out of the right wing, this is something that's very, very special. I mean, it really takes a special kind of stupid to believe that no, they're using reverse psychology on us to make us own ourselves when we're trying to own the libs. Okay, let me okay. This is Nolte writes this, okay? And he points out Howard Stern. So now I talked about Howard Stern last week, and he's been on a tear against anti-vaxxers because, like the rest of us, he wants his life back. Wants to be able to go out and do things without having to worry about an anti-vaxxer giving him COVID and then him giving COVID to someone else. And so now Nolte writes, leftists like Stern and CNN. Okay. Imagine CNN being leftist. Ridiculous. Oh, and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, Anthony Fauci. That's who he calls leftists. Yeah. Okay. Now he says that they're all deliberately looking to manipulate Trump voters and supporters into not getting vaccinated. He said, if I wanted to use reverse psychology to convince people not to get a life-saving vaccination, I would do exactly what Stern and the left are doing. I would bully and taunt and mock and ridicule you for not getting vaccinated. Knowing the human response would be like, hey, fuck you, I'm never getting vaccinated. So you know who thinks like that, right? Children. Like, that's a very childish way of looking at the world. Super, super hardcore reactionary. It doesn't make any sense. But again, these people do not have a fully functional brain. That's what it seems like. But again, his entire thesis tends to fall apart too, that you remember when the vaccine came out, everybody was being urged gently to get it. Hesitancy was, of course, met with understanding and explanation because there are some legitimate communities that are vaccine hesitant. Black community especially, the indigenous community. So these communities of color that have been traditionally mistreated by the U.S. government, experimented on with the Tuskegee experiments and things like that, understandable that they have some misgivings or they might have some questions, and that's totally fine. And again, the difference here is if you have legitimate, like if you have questions for the vaccine, well, then you should, go to the CDC, or look up their website, call your doctor, talk to them. That's not what's at play here, though. I'm not talking about those people who might have some legitimate questions, right? I'm talking about the people who think your balls swell up, right? If you take the vaccine, or people who think it's a conspiracy to put a tracker in your body, which is like not possible through a vaccine, or mark of the beast. Crazy stuff. Okay. But again, when the vaccine came out and we had a huge jump in people taking it, both conservatives and before this whole thing was political, okay, we were overjoyed because we thought that maybe we could actually put this whole pandemic, start to put it behind us. Now it's nearly October. The Delta variant is devastating unvaccinated communities. Mask mandates have come back in certain places or are coming back, and it's all a result of people making this political. The virus itself is not political. That's it. It doesn't care what party you are or what ideology you subscribe to. It doesn't care if you're covered in the blood of Jesus. No, if you get it, there's a chance, pretty good chance, you're going to get sick from it, and there's also a chance that you're going to die from it, or develop long-lasting symptoms, neurological damage, other organ damage. I mean, again, why would you subject yourself to this over a political disagreement? It's ridiculous. But now, again, conservatives made this political, and there are, of course, some anti-vax factions on the left. They've always existed as well. And so they have this weirdo right-left partnership in hating vaccines now, which is super weird and unfortunate. But, like, everyone else, we're pissed. We did the right things. We locked down. We got the vaccine. We did all the stuff that we were asked to do. And we said, okay, well, that kind of sucks, but yeah, I want to save people's lives, and I want to get, I want to protect myself and my family and my community. All right, fine. We'll do this. We'll endure this, and with the hopes that everything's going to turn out later, as long as we get everybody on board, and we haven't. And so now, after all this time, we're run out of patience because y'all are treading on us now with your bullshit. But there's more. Nolte explains. He says, who wants to cave to a piece of shit like Howard Stern or Jimmy Kimmel or all these repulsive doctors refusing to treat the unvaccinated? Okay, witch doctors. Again, I don't actually mean witch doctors. That's in a witch doctor. But no, okay. He's probably referencing the story where some doctors walked out. But again, you look into the story, they didn't actually walk out and refuse patients. There was something involved with that, but they didn't actually refuse to serve unvaccinated patients. And besides, if you do, I know. The thing about medicine is you're supposed to do no harm, right? And you can't just walk out on a patient. That's extremely unethical. So as much as they might say they want to do that, or get mad at anti-vaxxers because they're tired, and look, there are people in the medical community that have quit as a result, that have walked off the job, that were unable to deal with not only the stress, but of course the, dealing with people who are sick and trying to avoid getting themselves or their family sick, especially early on. As I said, when all these medical professionals were going basically with less equipment, no vaccine, they were really, really in a lot of danger. They were put in a lot of danger. And so a lot of people did quit as a result. But generally, if you're a medical professional who prefers to stay in the job, you're not going to walk away from a patient or refuse to treat a patient, even if you disagree with the conditions that led up to them getting a disease or a condition. You know, you're supposed to not be a judgmental person when you're trying to help somebody, right? So no, anyway, getting back to that, he says, all I've seen is talk or Bette Midler or. Okay, who wants to feel like they're caving to a guy who's such a piece of shit? He publicly mocks people who have died, and he's not just a piece of shit mocking them. He's a piece of shit hurting the families of the dead men left behind. Okay. No one wants to cave to a piece of shit like that, or scumbag like Fauci, or any of the other scumbags at CNN, LOL. So we don't. And what's the result? They're all vaccinated, and we're not. And when you look at the numbers, the only numbers that matter, which is who's dying, it's overwhelmingly the unvaccinated who are dying, which is true. And they have just manipulated millions of their political enemies into the unvaccinated camp. That is not true. What? Okay, you know what this is? This entire thing, I mean, there's a stunning lack of personal responsibility in this article. Again, imagine being a person who is, you know, I was going to get the vaccine, but you know what? Some lib wasn't nice to me online. He was kind of mean. So you know what? I'll just die. That'll show him. What? What? No, that doesn't make sense. That is brainworms level of thinking. It's so incredibly fucking childish. But Nolte's got it. He's onto something though. Interestingly enough, and I'm going to show you this because here he says, according to the CDC, 99.5% of those dying of the, you know, he of course uses it's China flu. You know what I mean? So of course he's got to sprinkle the racism in there. But he says that they're unvaccinated and adds, even if they're lying or exaggerating, even if it's 75 or 80%, which is not, those numbers are pretty stark. Could it be possibly the left has manipulated huge swaths of Trump voters into believing that they're owning the left by not taking the life-saving Trump vaccine? Have you ever thought that maybe the left has us right where they want us? Just stand back for a moment and think about this. Oh yes. Oh, I'm doing some thinking. Yo, I'm really doing some thinking because this is some warped shit. But he says this, right now, countless number of Trump supporters believe that they're owning the left by refusing to take a life-saving vaccine. By the way, notice that he keeps peppering that through. So he's saying life-saving vaccine. Look at all these unvaccinated people that are dying. And he's correct. He's correct on all those things. So I just want to point that out because it goes to his overall point. So now he says, right now, a countless number of Trump supporters believe they're owning the left by refusing to take a vaccine. A vaccine, by the way, everyone on the left has taken. Oh, and so is Trump. Yeah, Trump has taken it. And when Trump encouraged people to get the vaccine, they booed him for suggesting it. So now, unless he's a secret lib, makes no sense, right? Trump. But anyway, okay. So now he then goes on to talk about mandates and the so-called effect that they're having on the conservative community. Well, the push for mandates is another ploy to get us to dig in and not do what's best for ourselves because no one wants to feel like they're caving to a mandate. And now, look, we all know the mandates are a response to rising caseloads in hospitals being crammed with COVID-19 patients. The mandates weren't there first, and if we had all gotten this taken care of at the beginning, when we had all had the chance to get vaccinated, chances are we wouldn't have any mandates left. But he gets back into the numbers. Here's what he says, quote, once you learn that 99.5% of all deaths are unvaccinated, it cuts through all the muck. Remember, that number is startling, an eye-opener. Forget cases, forget mandates, forget masks, and Howard Stern, of course. When you learn that almost everyone dying is unvaccinated, that's a come-to-Jesus moment. Oh. I could be wrong, he writes. Maybe the left isn't that evil and sly. But when I think of the unvaccinated lying there dying, being told by their doctor, sorry, there's nothing more we can do to get enough oxygen to your lungs, I don't laugh. My heart breaks for that person. It's a proper reaction, though one that Stern and a lot of other very online people aren't able to muster. Imagine lying there dying, thinking that all you had to do was just get the Trump vaccine. Even if this isn't the left's plan, who's owning who? Huh. So, okay. So for one, let me just mention, like, earlier in another story, I talked about how at the beginning, of course, all this stuff, empathy. I got empathy. I'm a very empathetic person, okay? At some point, when you make choices willingly that you know are going to hurt other people in order to make political points, that's when I run out of empathy for you, okay? So now for the people that, made the, chose to believe in weirdo propaganda, but then get sick, they get into the hospital and they go, oh my God, I made a mistake. All right, look, I understand. Mistakes happen. And what you did was deeply irresponsible and might have hurt other people. Understand that I can still have empathy for that person, even though admitting that what they did was deeply wrong and irresponsible, but you can still have empathy for that person, okay? Especially if they see the light. I'm a big believer in redemption. I'm a believer in people who were wrong coming around to the right side, to the factual side, and going, oh, that's right. God, turns out I was stupid and wrong. Please, everybody get vaccinated. And of course, that makes me into a little bit of a bleeding heart, libby lib, whatever. I don't care. Right? That's where I don't have empathy for people that want to criticize me for no reason. But anyway, all right. So that said, this entire thing, as painful as it is to read, is actually kind of brilliant. And I mean that in a super twisted, weirdo world, MAGA logic kind of way. Because understand, this is a conservative writer for Breitbart, basically making the case for vaccines. And also, by the way, admitting in a weirdo way that they don't have an ideology other than owning the libs. And he is using that to convince other conservatives to get vaccinated because, let's face it, most of the unvaccinated are conservatives. I know. But again, the story has twists and turns. It is both painful and glorious to read. And I could just imagine humans like 100 years from now reading about the pandemic. And of course, I make a lot of assumptions there that we are still here in 100 years. I mean, we got to solve some serious issues before then, but that is a different story for a different time. But say historians later on, they look at this, they're going to use this as a case study for the insanity and conspiratorial mindset that conservatives of 2020 and 2021 and 2019 and 2017 and 2018, 2016 and on have gotten themselves into. And this guy, for whatever reason, and I don't really care his reasonings, maybe he does just really want to own the libs. I don't care. I don't care. Ironically, he's trying to do the right thing in MAGA world in a way that only MAGA understands. Because they are so deeply reactionary and so incredibly conspiratorial that they can only believe, and we'll see how effective this is, they can only believe that, oh, you trying to make me, get the vaccine is just you trying to own me and make me not get the vaccine. Well, fuck you, I'm going to get the vaccine. Okay. Sure. I do hope this helps people, actually. And let me give some assistance to the argument, okay? Oh no, conservatives, if you're watching, I'm going to feel so incredibly owned if you get this vaccine. Wouldn't you love to own this lib right here? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I mean, this vaccine, it is full of not only precious antibodies, but liberal tears. So please, don't save your own lives. I beg of you. No, don't do that. Please own me. The whole party is nuts, but you know what? At the end of the day, if it works, it works. We got more. Holy crap. All right, let's go to the crazy MAGA rally. Over the weekend, the long-awaited sequel to the January 6th Capitol riot kicked off with tens of attendees. Oh, great. On Saturday afternoon, videos on social media showed the early stages of the event, organized to show support for those imprisoned over the January 6th invasion of the Capitol building. And, well, unfortunately for the attendees, there was actually more of a turnout by police and the media, but very, very few MAGA chuds to be found. Spectrum News congressional reporter Taylor Populars posted some observations along with the clip, and there's, of course, many different video clips that I put together showing different times of this rally. Take a look.
Overthrow government. There's a name for it. It's called insurrection. Are any of our countrymen and women being held charged with insurrection? Sir? The answer is no.
You might demand your respect, you're kind to, you're respectful to, and you're obedient. And we're going to keep us safe. We're counting.
Lie down, lie down, lie down.
All right, so now early observations were there's several hundred members of the press, hundreds of police officers, a few dozen rally attendees, a couple of dozen counter-protesters, media flocking to individual people, and rally attendees tell me that they're disappointed by the turnout, but pleased with the attention by the press. So now, at the end of the day, of course, there was a report of an estimate of the crowd of about 200 that showed up. So, sad, baby, fail, wait. Now, let me give you some statements here from the people who showed up. One person, this is Linda Barrera, said this: "I'm a little disappointed." She is a retired public school teacher from New York who went to the rally on a bus with about 20 other people. "I think that there were probably, more probably, people still wanted to come, but they were a little scared, so they canceled." Okay. Oh, were they scared? Oh, that. "As much as it was discouraged," this said Bernie Hoffman, "I was glad to see some people there." This is Hoffman is a resident of nearby Arlington, Virginia, who also attended the January 6th rally. Though he said that he did not go into the Capitol, but he said this, quote, "It could have been me being arrested on trespassing charges. What's going on in this place is way beyond outrageous." Okay, but here's the thing, okay? The reason that you weren't arrested for trespassing is that you weren't trespassing. You didn't go into the Capitol building without permission. Therefore, you would have no reason to be arrested. That's kind of how laws work. But it could have been me. It could have been me. No, it couldn't have been you. I could get arrested for stealing if I was caught stealing. That's how laws work. Literally. Outrageous. I can't believe how they enforce laws. Yeah, you know, it's funny. You literally can't believe it because too often white powerful people don't face any consequences for their actions. There is a white right-wing privilege in this country. And that, of course, means that white right-wingers tend to get a slap on the wrist when it could have been a lot more serious. So now the organizer of this event, Matt Braynard, who had briefly worked for President Trump's campaign, said he was delighted by the wonderful turnout, which he claims was not pro-rioter, ironic, and sent instructions for the rally begging attendees to be respectful to law enforcement and not to bring campaign paraphernalia. So now the people that showed up, well, they followed that and didn't bring Trump hats or Trump flags or signs or all their weird stuff or shirts, but they did bring their own signs. So now that, of course, since it wasn't Trump focused, Trump decided to weigh in. Here's what he said to the Federalist on Thursday when asked about the rally, quote, "It's a setup. If people don't show up, they'll say, oh, it's a lack of spirit. And if people do show up, to be harassed. Plus, of course, there's that conspiracy that's been flying around that this whole rally was a setup by the government in order to arrest people who may have been at January 6th or not. But so far, the country has the police have arrested about 500 people in connection to the insurrection. So, you know, there's that. So we had a rally where they were told not to bring campaign gear for Trump and to be respectful for the police. And big shocker, only a couple hundred people showed up. I know, right? Now, here's the thing. If the rally had been more pro-Trump and they decided to push the big lie, which led to the January 6th Capitol insurrection, Donald Trump would have then endorsed it. And guess what? He would have had a bigger turnout. But since he didn't, we saw a fail rally. And that's it. See, here's the thing. Trump doesn't actually care about any of the people who tried to carry it as well on January 6th. And ultimately, that's what this rally was about. Justice for J6, right? To try to get the people in jail. And look, there are some people that are sitting in solitary confinement right now. I believe solitary confinement, no matter who's in there, right? I believe that is a form of human torture. So I don't agree that people, and you know, I just learned this recently, that there are people on January 6th that have been put into solitary confinement. That is inhuman punishment, inhumane. They do not deserve to be in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement needs to be eliminated completely, right? Again, human rights abuse right there. But as far as letting them go, letting them out, no, that's ridiculous. They were in the Capitol. Some of them are dangerous, that have openly talked about, you know, coming back and doing more violence or bringing their guns next time. Let's not do that. All right? No, keep them people in jail, just not in solitary, right? So now, as I said before, he doesn't care about those people, and that's why he didn't speak out in favor of it, because it wasn't a rally about him. It wasn't about him. It wasn't going to help him. And so if it doesn't help him, why bother? Why bother? And so now here's the thing that's frustrating me about the media on this one, other than, of course, showing up in droves and like mobbing like the one, you know, the couple people who are here. Okay? And so, yes, definite media hype and overreaction, etc. But the other thing, of course, is that those who are doing write-ups of this are saying, well, this is an example of Trump's influence waning in the party. Oh, Republicans are getting back to their senses. No, they've never had their senses, okay? No, you're missing the picture. Trump wasn't involved. He didn't endorse this, and he doesn't care about this. And they don't care. Because if he doesn't care, they don't care. That's how the cult works. This doesn't prove his waning influence at all. It just once again shows that the media does not understand him or his followers. There's no logic here. It is a cult of personality. It's not at all based on ideology. It's about Trump, because it's always been about Trump. Now, one more thing. This is just a bit of a fun aside, because you're wondering probably about the Batman thing. So let me just show you one of the attendees was Batman. And again, not even he could save this fail rally. Sorry. Dad. Oh, okay. Am I already almost out of time? Jesus. All right. Marjorie Taylor Greene or Kyrsten Sinema? Which one do you want to hear about? I'm going to ask you. Y'all. Which story do you want me to do? Last one, and I'll save the next one for tomorrow. Kyrsten Sinema or Marjorie Taylor Greene and her ad? All right, we got Marjorie Taylor Greene. We have Sinema. Let's see. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Fine with anything. Sinema. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I can't take any more Marjorie Taylor Greene. All right, so let's do the Marjorie Taylor Greene story. It's crazy, I know, and then we'll come back and we'll do Sinema tomorrow for her prescription drug plan. So let's do that. And then we'll end out the show. Nope. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene on Friday released an ad that has come to be the norm among insane Republicans. Take a look.
Joe Biden abandoned Americans in Afghanistan, got 13 of our best soldiers killed, gave a kill list of Americans to the Taliban, and armed an Islamic terrorist nation with $83 billion in weapons like this one. Biden should be impeached. Now I'm doing a gun giveaway of my own, but for Americans only. I want you to win this .50 caliber rifle that Democrats will ban if they keep the House next year. While Joe Biden broke America's pledge to never leave a man behind, Nancy Pelosi is sneaking the Green New Deal into the $3.5 trillion budget. And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrats' socialist agenda. Go to the website below and sign up to win my .50 caliber gun before Joe Biden bans it.
Okay, where do we start? Where do you start? The comically large gun, or like the idea that Nancy Pelosi is going to sneak in the Green New Deal? You mean the Green Dream or whatever? That's what she called it. I wish I wish the Democrats were as cool as these Republicans think that they are. I mean, come on. Oh, all right. So, wow. Again, the comically large gun, getting back to that, icing on the cake. Where's her ear protection? Where's her eye protection? Look, to be fair, maybe she is wearing earplugs, can really tell. But who knows with her? Oh, I don't need no eye and ear protection. No, oh, it's communism. I am covered in the blood of Jesus. Oh, good for you. By the way, apparently that Prius had it coming because, you know, that socialist Prius, because that's what it said, socialism on it, that was created through capitalist manufacturing and that they paid money for to create that ad and blow up. Weird. So yeah, by the way, if you donated to Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's where your money went. Because she's not doing anything else. She's just creating these cringe-ass ads. Well spent money, well spent. Because apparently they love to blow up Priuses. All right, so let's get to the substance. And you might be asking, what substance? There. But she says, and the whole thing is, let me give away this $10,000 gun before Joe Biden bans it. So let me just ask, what working person has a .50 caliber? A $10,000 gun? You don't need working people, regular people, working hard, trying to make money to get by. You think they're going to have a $10,000 .50 caliber rifle? Again, if you're talking about guns, an AR-15 is way more accessible. Now, there's, of course, debate about whether or not it's good as a hunting rifle. I don't know personally. But the .50 caliber, there ain't no way you're going hunting with that. Not unless you want to have nothing left. And you're not going to defend your house with that either. And again, maybe unless you have some gigantic open yard, I'm talking acres and acres and stuff, and you plan to shoot from your roof or a helicopter or something, well, what's the point? What is the point? Well, the point is, of course, big boom boom stick. Look at my big cock. I mean gun. I mean gun. I didn't say penis. But why? Why do you want it? Why? This is not practical for a normal usage, for a regular person. And that again goes back to her erroneous argument that the gun grabbers are going to come and take my guns. No, nobody's coming for your 50 cal. Okay, the 10 people that own one are have no reason to be like, oh my God, no, they're going to take my guns. Relax. For one, this is too expensive and impractical to actually use in any way that would actually present a safety concern. Okay? We're not going to be seeing a school shooter armed with a 50 caliber rifle. I don't think anybody's too focused on banning it as a result. It doesn't make any sense. But back to the socialist car. Ironically, this is what pretty much, what America has always done to socialist countries in South America. Then after that happens, oh, socialism doesn't work. See what happens when you go socialist? The United States will just come and destroy you. You see what happens under socialism? No, because it never gets a chance. Which, by the way, here's the thing. We're going to be talking about socialism. Do you think Green New Deal is socialist? Do you think any of the policies put forward by the Democratic Party are in any way socialist? Socialism means the workers owning the means of production. It's a labor-focused economic system, not even a political system. What she described as socialism is actually more of a welfare state that exists inside of capitalism. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps. It's all just redistribution of wealth made under capitalism from the rich to the non-rich. And that's really what it is. And that's why the Republican Party ties those incredibly popular and good things to scary socialism, again, which is not as the same as a welfare state. And so here's the thing, right? So socialism and welfare states can go hand in hand, obviously, but also open capitalism and welfare states. For example, if you look at Europe, you have capitalism and you have generous welfare states that tend to work fairly well together. Now, of course, you can argue, very successfully, mind you, that there's a lot of exploitation of the third world involved in those successful social democracies. And that is a gigantic problem. Resource exploitation, labor exploitation of the third world, or developing countries, China, Malaysia, Vietnam, Tibet, etc. Right? And those are really important issues to address. But at the same time, you have examples of a capitalist welfare state that does work, and several of them, actually. Again, the Nordic countries, the UK, Germany, have generous welfare states, even when they're under conservative rule. And it turns out the reason is because it's popular. You try to take the UK's NHS, well, people are going to be pissed. All right? She understands so little of what she's actually talking about, but that's the whole point, of course. And the thing is, the real fucked up thing about this entire ad is given the context of what the Republican Party has actually become. Every Republican now has an ad of which they're shooting something, whether it be big government regulations. By the way, Joe Manchin has a similar ad. We got regulations, we got big government, we're going to shoot big government, yeah! This time it's quote-unquote socialism. And she also mentions America-hating squad members, AOC, Ilhan, and Rashida Tlaib. And you might not have seen that, but it's down at the corner, of course, where it's, the anti-squad. Here's the thing. It doesn't take much to connect these things. We already had insurrectionists in the Capitol trying to find AOC, trying to find Pelosi, others. Mike Pence, one of them had zip tie handcuffs. Imagine if one of them caught him. They wanted to take these people hostage and demand Trump's reinstatement. Who knows what would have happened? Understand that this is what this rhetoric leads to. Violence against her political enemies. And why Marjorie Taylor Greene, while she may be monumentally comically stupid, is also dangerous. And as I said before, the real danger is the stochastic terrorism that the followers of these demented people do on their behalf. So that is the real danger here. And that's what you're seeing. Right. Okay. That's all I got today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Let me read a few super chats from y'all. Where was All Lives Matter when Gabby Petito went missing? Says Fold DPD1. That's a good question. Let me just say real quickly on that. As soon as I saw that, I think me and probably everyone else, except for the police, were like, yeah, she was murdered. Y'all know. Like, I got that on Twitter. I was like, there is no way that he did not kill her. But no, he's gone now. He's gone. Look to the wind. Come on. LL says, establishment Democrats fundraising off reproductive rights. They've had 40 years to codify the law. Point. Same thing. Let me go to Republicans, too. At least before Texas, every time that they get into power, they also had the same thing. But I think they like to use that for the culture wars. And you did point out how Democrats also kind of like to get involved in the culture wars, too, to fundraise. Yeah, not good. Elwell also says the modern conservative movement is all about personal freedom and has nothing to do with responsibility. In fact, responsibility is the opposite of freedom in their eyes. They're only interested in freedom from responsibilities and consequences, and only for themselves, no matter the cost to others. I'm tired, work 7-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks. Damn. 3 of my coworkers resigned. We are overwhelmed, not sure we're going to get out of this death spiral. I'm, of course, assuming that you're in the medical field. My wife's in the medical field. So obviously, I understand that. It's horrible, honestly. It's just horrible, and I totally feel for you. Y'all are doing the best work that you can, and immense respect. You know, doctors and nurses and medical professionals that are working day in and day out to try to save people's lives, even if they're not smart enough or not willing to save their own. We appreciate you, and we do love you. All right. Monty Darno says, Happy New Week to you, Cat. Indeed. Okay. So, I do not have a doctor wife. No. She's a medical assistant. And she just became a medical assistant. Not a doctor. I wish. All right. So anyway, again, thank you all. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Oh yeah, let me go over to Twitch here. We had a little bit of a hype train. Let's see. SBloom85 resubbed for another month of tier 1. Thank you for your 10 months. Dread2Max, thank you for the 200 bits. Regular Mole Rat Dragon, thank you for the 234 bits. Ironman42, thank you for the 100 bits. Crazy Hawaiian PA, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Night Nation. See you all tomorrow. Have a good night.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Big, massive dumps.
Mike Pounds.
Tighten up my knee. His testicles became swollen.
Please clap.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.